Welcome back, everyone, to Hometown Hauntings. I am Quentin. Misty is with me, as always. Today we have a very special guest. Misty, would you like to tell us a little bit about our guest?
Yes, so we are highlighting, St. Augustine, Florida. And the guest we have today is Heather Cribbs, and she is actually a tour guide with Ghost City Tours.
Okay.
So she has lots of knowledge about the area and facts and different things. So she's going to be a great guest for us today.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Is it raining out there? It's raining here now.
It is not. It is hot here. So
Oh, God.
we're in the 80s today. It's not fun.
Ugh.
We're at least in 72, but for Louisiana, that's like 88.
Yeah, I think it's like 74, but feels like 86.
That makes
Love
sense.
Florida.
That makes sense.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you interested in being like a tour guide and with the paranormal?
I've always really been like into the paranormal and like ghosts and stuff like that. I'm from Orlando, Florida originally, and my mom and I would go up to St. Augustine for a weekend, a couple times a year. We always took ghost tours. I was always like super into it, and I ended up moving to St. Augustine to go to college at Flagler College, and I was like, I'm gonna be a ghost tour guide, and then I didn't. I never had the time. And so the last 7 years I've been teaching. I finally left the education field after this past school year and started doing what I wanted to do since I was a kid. And I'm enjoying it.
Good. For those of you who don't know where St. Augustine is, because I've never heard of St. Augustine until I started working here, how far is that from Orlando?
It's about 2 hours north.
Okay.
It is right on the east coast of Florida. It's the oldest city in the country.
Founded 1565.
Correct.
So for those of the people that maybe don't know much about it, what makes St. Augustine stand out amongst other places as far as haunting or like a vacation place?
It kind of goes hand in hand. St. Augustine is it's history.
Mm-hmm.
It has some of the oldest buildings in the country. It's got the oldest building in the state of Florida, which is the Castillo de San Marcos.
Mm-hmm.
It was a military fort built in the late 1600s, like 1695, 1697. But what's really interesting is most of the city is made out of a material called coquina, and coquina is said to hold energy, both physical and metaphysical. And most of downtown at least has a foundation of it. And that's one reason why the city is so haunted and there's so many spirits in so many places, is because that material helps keep them there. And it's pretty cool because that was one of the original materials they used to build the city, and it's still there.
And there's the fact that the city has been bombarded by raids from Englishmen and pirates.
Oh, no, yeah.
Everything.
1702, the entire city got wiped out.
Yeah,
no big deal.
You cannot find a wooden building in the entirety of the city that was built prior to 1702 because they burned it to the ground.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was not the first time. Sir Francis Drake, when he was doing his expeditions, he was hired by Queen Elizabeth I during the Queen Anne's War to attack Spanish colonies, and he saw St. Augustine. He raided it, burned the entire city to the ground. There was nothing left.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a stronghold for the Spanish treasure fleets that would go like between the islands, and it was just dollar signs. And so it got burned and made pirate problems. And we also had hurricanes because, you know, that's a thing. But in 1702, Robert Cyrils was a British sea captain, and he burnt down the entire city except for the fort. That was the only thing to stand. We have a running joke that, you know, if you don't know what happened to the building, just assume that it burned.
Yeah.
just guess that.
It was
You're probably
here.
right.
Burned down, maybe.
There's also the oldest schoolhouse, which is, they don't really know when it was built. They say like somewhere around 1716. That's when
it was after the fires.
Yeah, it was that's where it's first showing up in the record. It may not be the oldest schoolhouse in America, but it's the oldest wooden schoolhouse in the United States.
Okay. Very interesting. So let's talk about you for a little bit and what like got you interested in hauntings to be a ghost tour guide.
I wish I could pinpoint what it was. I have no idea. Like, I just all of a sudden this like 6-year-old kid is like, oh, ghosts are cool. But I might have been a ghost tour in St. Augustine that kind of sparked my interest, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I kind of became that weird kid that was like, oh, did you know this thing happened here and now these spirits are here? and I've always loved history, so I think tying the two together is what
Mhm.
drew me to St. Augustine, to stay there and kind of like make St. Augustine part of my personality.
Yeah.
Um, but I just liked the idea that there was this otherworldly existence that some people were privy to and some weren't, and under certain circumstances, and you had to like find the right times to see things. I don't
Mhm.
know. I wish I had an answer as to why it intrigued me so much as a kid, but it's always been part of my interests.
I'm curious. You said you went to Flagler's.
Yes.
Did you experience anything there? Because I know the campus is haunted.
Flagler will deny left and right that it's not haunted.
Of course.
Of course. But my sophomore year, I lived in the Ponce de Leon Hotel itself as dorm rooms, and I lived in the Ponce dorms my freshman and sophomore years. My freshman year, I didn't have any direct experiences, but my sophomore year, my room was haunted by not one but two different spirits. One friendly and benign. She actually folded my laundry.
Woo.
I know I wasn't folding my towels. No 19-year-old girl in college is folding her own towels. But the other one was not a nice presence. It was a tall gentleman in a top hat who would leave handprint bruises on my body.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have a roommate at the time, so definitely wasn't, her walking over and leaving these giant bruises.
It may have been Flagler himself, because I know he haunts the place.
He does. He's typically on the ground floor, in this round entrance area called the Rotunda, or on the east wing in what is the now the administrative offices. Those are the two places he's seen the most.
Have you seen the tile with his face on it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite things. I included in my tour
Yep.
as well, because Flagler College is one of my stops on my tour.
Mhm.
And I add in, I'm like, if you guys ever go in there, you can see it.
Yep.
You can also step on it.
Yeah, because Flagler was not a good person.
No, it's so funny how history has shaped him to be this. I mean, yes, he really did help build the South,
Yeah.
the industry and everything, but he had a lot of skeletons in his closet.
Mhm.
I love airing out his dirty laundry on my tours. It's a lot of fun.
Because he was originally part of the Standard Oil Company before it broke up and became Exxon and all the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah, it was him and J.D. Rockefeller.
Yep.
So your family, you mentioned you went to St. Augustine with your mom growing up. So she's into the ghost hunting and the ghost tours and supernatural.
I think it might have just been more that she was excited because I was excited. I don't know if she's ever gone somewhere without me and taken a ghost tour.
Mhm.
But every time we would go somewhere, Key West, Savannah, we would take a ghost tour. One of my favorite ones was in Key West. I was like, I think 8 or 9
Mhm.
when we went. But I don't know if she was ever into it on her own. But she humored me. She
Mhm.
would go on the tours with me. I'd be like, I want to do that. And she'd be like, all right, a weird little child. And we'd go on the tours. But I don't think it's ever been her thing.
When you're in Key West and you went on a tour that really got you, what happened? What can you want to talk about? That?
Robert the doll.
Yep.
Oh,
I
okay.
figured.
Still freaks me out to this day. We went with one of her friends and we stopped. It was at the time he was being held in this little tiny museum. I think he's like at the airport now or something. He's somewhere
I thought he was at the
the
Firehouse Museum. He's not anymore?
I think he's somewhere different now than he was when I went.
Okay.
But we stopped. I refused to get out of the car. I was like, I'm staying here. They're like, okay,
Mhm.
see you later. And they took a bunch of photos all on disposable cameras,
Mhm.
because it's like 1999.
Yeah.
And only one of them developed.
Oh, wow.
And his feet were backwards in the photo.
That's because they didn't ask permission from Robert to take the photo. You have to ask permission.
And so my mom's friend actually used to keep that photo in her visor in her car.
Mhm.
So when I'd be in the back being annoying, she would take it out and show it to me and freak me out.
Look what's going to happen. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Robert still gives me the creeps to this
Terrorize
day.
it. He is an odd looking doll, I guess, for that era. Like, I get it, but it's still
It's because he's
kinda-
old. And
not just that, because I collect old creepy dolls by all means, but like there's just something really creepy about his
There's
expression.
something wrong
and his,
about him.
Yeah.
you wouldn't want Robert?
No, I was married to a Robert. I don't want a
Okay.
Robert. But that's cool though. So that way people could get out and about. We were trying to promote people to go out and travel and see what's around their areas. So for people to go out and see where Robert's at and go check that out. Ask for permission before you take a picture.
Yep, you always have to.
Yes.
Or you get bad luck. That's the thing.
Yeah. Or like your photos don't come out or
Mhm.
something happens with the electric parts of your phone or your camera. Yeah, he's bad news.
So how long have you been a tour guide with Go City Tours?
I actually started this past June,
Okay.
right after the school year ended.
You enjoy it so far?
I do. I
Okay.
do. It's something fun to kind of do in the evenings.
Mm-hmm.
You get all kinds of people on your tour, and it's not only fun to tell them the paranormal aspects, but to introduce them to the history of St. Augustine,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and then to kind of direct them what to do the next couple days while you're
Mhm.
there. Um, you're not just a ghost tour guide. You're kind of like a city tour guide too.
Yeah.
Before you had started working for Ghost City, had you been on any Ghost City tours before?
Nope, none for Ghost City.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are under the misconception that when you go on a tour, there's not much interaction between them and, say, the tour guide. And then afterwards, you do get a little bit of one-on-one time where if they had a question or wanted a piece of advice or where could I go to see more or have a possible experience or I'm staying here, do you have any like tips? That's your perfect time to talk to somebody that's a local that could lead somebody in the right area.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, it definitely is. I always end my tours if people want suggestions or
Mhm.
advice or ideas. I'm happy to stay for a couple minutes and chat.
Mhm.
And I also encourage people at that time if they caught anything on my tour, I'm like,
Mhm.
now's the time to show me.
Yeah.
Let me see
Yeah.
it.
Start looking through them. Yeah.
What's the user recommendations that you give them for places?
Well, it usually depends on how long they're there and what they're
Mhm.
into. I always joke that St. Augustine is a drinking city with a history problem. It really is. We have 2 distilleries in town. I work at one of them during the day. We have a winery. We have several breweries. I always recommend people, hit those up.
Mhm.
There's always live music. We've got Ripley's Believe It or Not in town, which in and of itself is incredibly haunted.
Mhm.
We've got the old jail in town, which is wildly
I can't wait to
haunted.
talk with you about that one. So yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then I just kind of tell them, if you're into history, go to the fort or go
Mhm.
to the old schoolhouse. Go look at all the architecture, go
Mhm.
tour Flagler College or Lightner Museum, or go over to the beach. It's a 12-minute drive to the beach, which is one reason why people come to Florida, of course.
Yeah. So you get a lot of your guests or out of state guests?
A lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially this time of year, everyone's trying to escape the cold.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So a lot of
all the
a lot of people
snowbirds
from up
come
north are
down.
here right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So on your tours, do you have like one specific tour that sticks out amongst the other ones that you've done of like an interaction or guests that had or caught anything?
Actually, so last week, not even a week ago, it was this past Friday, I was at the Talamato Cemetery, which is the Catholic burial ground in town. And there's a story about a little boy named James who died falling out of a tree at the age of
Oh, I
5,
know that one.
right in the front of the cemetery.
Yep.
And he's known sometimes to show up as a raccoon, and
Oh.
interact with guests and stuff. And as I'm telling this, one of my guests goes, "You mean that raccoon right behind you?" And I turn around, and 25 feet behind me in the cemetery is a raccoon just staring at me with like big eyes. And I went, "Oh, hey, buddy."
I didn't know the story about him being a raccoon. I wonder how
Yeah,
that works.
he shows up a lot when there's tours with kids.
Uh-huh.
Because he's 5, he likes
Yeah. He
children,
likes to
but
play.
he
Yeah.
will chitter and have conversations with guests,
Mhm.
with people, just back and forth. And it's always right by that tree
Mhm.
I
where he
think
passed away, or right by his headstone.
he also haunts. It may be an antique store, maybe something else, but there's a building close by that he's known to haunt. I think it is an antique store. I may be wrong about that.
It used to be an antique store.
Okay.
It's now a cheesecake and wine tasting place.
Oh.
It was where a ghost tour was set up as well.
Okay.
I cannot remember which company. There are several ghost tour
I know.
companies in St.
That's a
Augustine.
lot.
Okay.
They're like all next to each other because the city's so small. They're like in one
Yeah.
block.
How big is the city?
Not big.
Not big.
No.
Okay.
I would say it's probably the plaza is the center of the historical district, and it's probably 5 blocks on either side. So like
Okay.
a
Oh, okay.
20 block.
So you walk a square and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's you can walk from one end to the other
Mhm.
in 20 minutes.
Okay.
It's a half mile basically.
Because I've written some of the tours for the St. Augustine tours, and I never managed to travel there. But looking at Google Maps and seeing the
Layout.
street view, man, it looks so pretty. I want to go.
Yeah.
It looks so quaint.
It's like no other city.
Mhm.
It holds a special place in my heart. I don't know what it is about it, but it's charming. It's enchanting. It's historical. It's
Mhm.
haunted.
So speaking on your tour, so you talk briefly about the jail. I'm very interested to hear about that and experiences that people may have had or you've had, or why it is so haunted.
Right. So the jail is technically not part of our tour. They have their own tour they do. It's called like the jail after dark, and it's like from 12:30 in the night to like 2 in the morning.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's really after dark.
I want to do that. Yeah.
Oh. And I went to it probably 15 years ago, before it was like a private tour kind of thing. And they take you through the jailhouse itself. They take you where the gallows used to be. They take you through the home of like the sheriff that lived there on site. And most of the areas are okay, but the jailhouse itself, particularly the hallway with the cells, is really creepy. You get like this sense of dread while you're in there, like all hope is lost and existence is meaningless, no matter how happy-go-lucky you are. And the jail cells themselves are like significantly colder, even if it's Florida. It's 110 degrees outside. The jail cells are not hot. And then when I was there, we were walking down the hall where there's jail cells on the left-hand side and then a wall on the right. And up in that top corner, like where the ceiling meets the wall, just like this massive black energy up there, where I looked at it and went, Mom, I'm going to go wait outside.
Oh,
and I
God.
turned around and hightailed it out. It was just like, it was something inhuman, I think.
Do you know why most of the people were housed there at that jail? For crimes, like serious crimes, or what? Were they pirates?
I believe it was the general jail.
Okay.
Right.
You know, if they needed to house someone somewhere, that's where
where-
they would take them.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
So-
jail environments.
Yeah, it's never good.
Well, especially before like the modern era, were terrible. Terrible.
They were treated
environment.
inhuman.
Yeah.
Barely any food, barely anything to keep warm when it was cold.
Yeah. Basically left to die on your own. So they
Many
didn't
of
have to do
them were in tight quarters, overcrowded in cells, so diseases
Diseases.
spread quickly, and
Yeah.
many of them just died in the cells.
it. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them too were pirate.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they weren't pirates, but they were seen as pirates.
Yeah.
So they were involved in piracy in some sense. And St. Augustine kind of had like a no nonsense rule, that they
We're
you know,
tolerating it.
you were hung.
Yeah. Have guests told you that they've been to that jail and they've experienced stuff? When your mom was there with you, did she notice a dark looming energy?
She didn't notice it, but I
Okay.
have had guests that have gone there, as well as some of my fellow tour guides who have gone, and they're like, yeah, that place is really creepy. They just get like this weird feeling like somebody's watching them or somebody's trying to shove them out,
Okay.
that they're not welcome, that you feel like something's following you. I even had a guest probably a month, 2 months ago, that said that when she went there a couple years ago, she felt like something followed her home.
Oh, wow.
Like that sense hung with her for 2 or 3 weeks after she went back home to another state. So like it stuck. So people report not good things there. It's not like the spirits that you see like walking through a wall and disappear. This is stuff that like gets to your core.
Yeah. I was worried because I went for the company, we went to the South Pittsburgh
I want to do that. I'm
hospital.
so jealous.
That's 30 miles out, not 30 miles, 30 minutes out from Chattanooga. And we did a over the night for like 2 days haunting, ghost hunt. And I swear that something followed me back to my hotel room. And I was worried. I was kind of paranoid for a few days after getting home in Louisiana that something had followed me back to
Connected
my
with you.
house.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But it was just like a weird feeling, or just me being paranoid. But that eventually went away.
Right.
But it's been unnerving sometimes.
Yeah. So one of the things we tend to ask our guest is why some people are more susceptible to interactions or noticing atmosphere vibes or even see apparitions. Do you have a theory on that?
I think it's one of those things that if you are a staunch believer, you're going to experience things. And if you up and down are like, ghosts don't exist, spiritual's not a thing, yada yada, then you're gonna be like, oh, it's cold in here, there must be a draft. Or oh, I saw a weird shadow, the lights, someone has been driving by with their brights on. You're gonna find ways to debunk it. And I think that if you are more spiritual, you're more likely to accept things
Mhm.
that as they show up.
Mhm.
You're not trying to make sense of it, because you can kind of jump to um, the non-traditional reason for things. But at the same time, sometimes people need something to happen to them in order to become a believer.
Mhm.
And I think there are certain spirits that are like, oh, this person doesn't believe, I'm going to mess with them in particular. Like, oh, you don't believe, I'm going to
Yeah.
throw something in your house.
Yeah.
But also, I just think that some people are conduits and hotspots themselves.
Mhm.
I've always had things happen to me. I've had a couple friends that always seem like spirits and ghosts are like drawn to them for whatever reason, and I wish there was an explanation as to why those people are that way.
Mhm.
But I think everyone has different theories, but nothing's proven.
I agree. Like, I think that that's 100%. And I try not to, I'm not the one to debunk things. Like when I see something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel something. But I always wonder, but there's so many people that are, but I just think that ghost and this talking about it is so still, unfortunately, still so taboo, where it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still an issue where people, like they say, lean on faith for that, like that can't be. But I think that there's still something. So, yeah.
It's just funny that it's taboo now. Back in the Victorian era, people love talking about ghosts and spiritualism. They couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's for the longest time too, because they didn't have explanations for things. They would make up this lore as to why things happened.
Yeah.
And it was, taken as fact, like, oh, you keep seeing birds around your house. They're
Mhm.
messengers from the devil. So she's a witch.
Mhm.
And it was fact. It was truth.
Mhm.
And nowadays, you mention ghosts and people are like, oh, that's not real. And it's like, listen, 200 years ago,
Mhm.
it was truth. It was
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened, but
Do you notice in St. Augustine, there's a lot of like-minded people like yourself and myself and Quentin
Yes.
out there? Or is it more?
I think so, because some people are drawn to St. Augustine. They're not coming just for the ghost, but
Mhm.
that was something on the list. They were like, oh yeah, this would be fun.
Mhm.
But then you also have your locals, and it's not so much that everyone is like, yeah, I see ghosts everywhere, but it's like living with an animal in your house.
Okay.
Like you see your cat and you're like, oh yeah, there's my cat. Oh,
Yeah.
there it goes doing something stupid again. It's zooming around the house.
Mhm.
And same thing with spirits. You're like, oh, that's just,
Yeah.
Mr. Henry. Yeah, it's 8:30 on a Tuesday. He's going through the walls.
Yeah.
And everyone just kind of accepts it. And I
Okay.
think so much of St. Augustine lore and uh like St. Augustine Gothic
Mhm.
is the fact that it is a haunted town
Mhm.
and everyone knows that. And so we all kind of feed into it and we all just kind of accept it for what it is. Whether or not you believe, it is what it is.
Mhm.
Besides the raccoon incident, have you experienced anything on your tours since?
Yeah, almost every tour I give, people catch something going on at the Castillo de San Marcos at the fort.
Right.
There's a set of, I can't even call them windows because they're only 10.5 inches wide. But there's a set of 7 windows that 20 native Seminole men were able to escape from after they were captured there. And those windows are incredibly active. And I've had people almost every night catch something there. I've had people capture orbs at Flagler College, at the Cathedral Basilica, at the Talamato Cemetery.
Mhm.
I would say there's always something going on, especially like when it's cold out or after it rains
Mhm.
or on a full
Like a change
moon.
in
We
Earth.
find that there are ebbs and flows of activity.
Mhm.
And the busier the city is, the more people find as well, which is kind of cool. But all kinds of fun stuff happens. And that's why I encourage people to take photos on my tour because they might catch something.
Do you have a particular favorite haunted spot, either in just the city itself or in the tours themselves?
I mean, I love the fort.
Okay.
That's such a primary like it's a staple in St. Augustine. It's an icon. And you can go on and on and on about the stories there. And that's one of my favorite things. Even when I'm not doing a tour, I love being able to stop and look at the fort and, sit around and just kind of feel the energy there. But I also love, we have 2 cemeteries in town. You have the Talamato Cemetery and the Huguenot Cemetery, which was named after the French Protestants who tried to make a settlement in town and didn't succeed very well. but both of those are so old, and you can just kind of feel the stories there. You can't go into them, unfortunately, but you can stand outside and stick your face to the grate
Yeah.
and kind of just imagine
Yeah.
what those people's lives were like.
Is it the Huguenot cemetery that has the story of the exploding bishop in it?
No, that's the Talamato Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
And that's Bishop Varro.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
before
our
you start
darling
your
exploding
tours,
bishop.
do you tell people, like, if you start feeling something, take pictures, but take multiple? Like, what kind of tidbits would you offer somebody?
Usually when I start my stories, I tell people this is going to be our hotspot. This is where most things have been captured. Please feel free to snap photos as I'm talking. And I don't make people stand there and stare at me. They're allowed to kind of wander and listen. And I encourage them. I was like, if your gut tells you to take a photo of this place, then take a photo. Just snap away and you might catch something.
Has there ever been a point where you had people, this may be such a specific question, have people that you knew on the tours that weren't maybe believers took the tour and be like, experienced something and told you about it?
I have had people, it's funnily enough, a lot of times if you have a couple on the tour, usually it's the woman who is excited about the ghost stuff and the husband who's just there because she signed up for it.
Right.
And it's so funny. I'm like, listen, you open up, you might experience something. And I've had a couple times where we get photos and things like that happen. And he's like, okay, I can't explain that. And I'm like, yeah, see, I told you.
Yeah.
Or if someone snaps a photo and I'm like, share it with the class, don't hog it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I took a photo at the same time and there's nothing there. And we're like, exactly. So it's kind of, we don't get to go in any buildings.
I know.
It's hard to like experience things in that way, but most of what we get is capturing via photo or video.
Either outside the buildings or looking at a window. I'm like, oh, there's something in the windowsill, or there's an orb outside.
I did have one we used to do. There's a stop on our tour. The restaurant used to be called Prince of Wales, but it closed during COVID. But it's known as Faye's House. And there's just like kind of a local legend that animals won't walk past her house because she, this weird vibe of energy. And I had a guest on my tour one time who had a dog, and the dog would not walk in front of the house. He promptly sat his butt just on the edge of the property line and was like, nope, I'm not moving.
It is, because I think animals have a great sense of
like,
their surroundings.
That was kind of fun. That was kind of interesting. I hadn't even mentioned that animals don't like to go past the property. That's, towards the end of the story. But as we walked there, the dog was like, I'm not getting any closer.
I wonder how bad it is at that place that even dogs and animals
like,
won't even avoid it. They avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, like, I'll park my ass. I'm good. That's interesting. I'm going to have to look into that one.
I don't think so much that it's a negative energy, but I think it's just that it's a very strong haunting that they're like, there is something here and I'm just not going to deal with it.
I just think animals are so intuitive and just smart that I would take my lead from an animal anytime.
Exactly.
If you had a guest and they're finishing up there and they were saying, I want to go somewhere to eat, and what would you recommend for something? Eating, sleeping? Is there a cool shop that people should go to and check out while they're in St. Augustine?
Absolutely. St. Augustine's, there's a lot of small, private-owned, mom-and-pop kind of shops, and I think that's part of the charm.
Yeah.
There's not as many chains. There are, of course, a lot of touristy traps that you find in every city, but there are hidden gems. So there's quite a few restaurants that I always send people to. My favorite bar that I go to, not a lot, but I go to sometimes, is called Barley Republic. And it's an Irish bar and pub. They have fantastic old fashions. That's what I send people for. And then there's a restaurant in town called the Columbia. It's a little bit nicer. You need a reservation. But their food is really, really good as well. There's also a place a lot of locals go. It's just this hole in the wall. It's called Taco Shop.
I like hole in the wall taco places. I'm good.
Hole in the walls restaurants are the best places.
They really
to go
are.
For
I know.
Yeah.
But like you walk in and there's like 6 tables, but they have really good food. they have something called a UFO, which is what a Crunchwrap wishes it was.
Okay.
It's delicious. I actually went last night before my tour.
Oh, man.
And then there's one town called the Prohibition Kitchen.
Mhm.
It's set up, 20s, 30s style, because St. Augustine was a huge, huge place for rum running
Mhm.
during Prohibition. And so they have a style set up, and I send people there a lot as well because their food's delicious. There's a place in town called the Floridian that only uses local ingredients,
Okay.
Oh.
and they're delicious. Really, there's a lot of good food. We like to eat
Hey, I'm all about that
in
too.
St. Augustine, honestly. And then I tell them really go into any of the art shops you see. We have a lot of art galleries
Mhm.
that focus on displaying local artists, whether it be painting, photography, things like that.
Mhm.
Go into any of the historical places you see. You really can't go wrong. And then, like I said earlier, we have a bunch of distilleries and wineries and breweries and stuff that I always recommend people go to, because nothing's better than a locally brewed beer, or a glass of wine that was made right there. Do a sample of
Yeah.
a whiskey that was made in the next room.
Yeah.
It's
And it's good to support local shops and local
Mhm.
businesses, and especially when you're traveling. Get away from the big chains. Try something new.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what nice is. There's very few chains
Okay.
in downtown St. Augustine, so most places you're going to find are locally owned.
I find it so funny. There's so many English pubs in St. Augustine, given the history between that settlement and the English during
Yeah.
the 15th.
You would think there would be more like Spanish themed
Yeah.
restaurants, and
Which
stuff.
there are, but it's just funny. There's like, I think 3 that I can think of off the bat. that
Yeah,
are there,
most
like,
of them are over across the Bridge of Lions on the island.
Yeah.
There's one, I think it's just called British Pub.
Oh, is there?
I think that's the name, is
Basic,
British
just
Pub.
cut and dry. So let's talk about some local legends that only locals would know, that maybe if somebody watches this or hears it, they'll be like, oh, I remember that, or I've heard of that. I want to go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be like the top local legend right now that locals know that others may not?
So there is one. I do stop there on my tour, and it's right next to the Talamata Cemetery, in the yard of that wine and cheesecake shop I mentioned. And it's called the Love Tree. And it's where a palm tree has naturally grown up through an oak tree, so they're cohabitating, they're living
wow.
harmoniously. But its local legend states that if you kiss your loved one underneath it, you'll be together forever. I use it as a warning to go into one of my stories about an affair gone wrong.
Okay.
Because, forever's a really long time if you don't read the fine print. But there's actually, I believe, 7 of those in town. 4 of them are public, but there's 3 of them that are private.
Okay.
That if you don't know where they are, you're not going to find them. And we kind of want to keep it that way, honestly.
Someone's hogging all the love.
Exactly. Well, it's not all love. All of them have different legends.
Oh, okay.
There's like the tree of sadness. So if a drop of water hits you and you walk underneath it, then you're going to lose someone.
Oh,
hell
that's
no.
not
No.
That's not fun.
I guess there's a pro and a con to everything. You want forever love, you have to give something in return.
What was the tree called?
The love tree.
Oh, the one where the...
the tree of sadness.
Okay.
Or tree of tears, I think. Tree of tears.
Okay.
And that's, they're all off the beaten path. The love tree is the only one that's kind of like in the main part of downtown. The rest of them are spread throughout downtown or around St. Augustine, not necessarily in historic district, but in the little alcoves and stuff.
Do people leave something there? Like, in Paris, they leave the locks on the fence? No. Okay.
Nope. You kiss and you go.
Okay. Drive through. Got it.
Yeah. There you go. Drive by smooch.
Yep.
And then another thing that's really cool that I don't know if it's like a local legend or like a local historical fact that nobody actually knows. But the very first Thanksgiving dinner was actually held in St. Augustine with the Saloy tribe. So that one's really cool as well. It was at where, I can't remember the church's name. It's like Dia de Nombre or something like that. And that's where they do like a festival and stuff. We actually have really weird festivals in St. Augustine, but if you live in the city, nothing will ever phase you again. I've literally watched a stormtrooper in a kilt on a moped. So
that would
nothing
make
phases
sense.
you. I'm sure Louisiana is not much different.
No, it would make sense that that's where the first Thanksgiving was, because I mean, St. Augustine was around 80 years before Jamestown even was a thing.
Yeah, it's super old.
Yep.
And it's passed hands so many times too. It had a Spanish period and then a British period.
Back to
And then
Spanish,
another Spanish
then
period.
American.
Gotcha.
Then it was American. There was an attempt at a French period that didn't happen. Because the
Short-lived.
Huguenots came up and.
So the festivals there, is there one that sticks out more than another that people should, like Mardi Gras, big here?
They actually do a parade and a festival for when they landed in St. Augustine, and people dress up in 15th century Spanish clothing.
The Flower
and
Festival,
marched-
is it?
What?
Is it the Flower Festival?
No, I don't think it's the Flower
Okay.
Fest. I can't remember the name of it.
Because I know there's a particular festival for flowers, because that's what.
This is for when they got there, not for flowers.
Well, maybe I'm thinking about when Ponce de
Leon?
Ponce de Leon discovered Florida in 15.
Well, this was actually for Pedro Menendez.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Who got here first.
Yeah.
And so they dress up in 15th, 16th century clothing, and they have a king and a queen and a princess,
Okay.
and they kind of promenade through the city, and they meet in the Spanish gardens and have a ceremony. It's just kind of a cool thing. And that happens. It finally went back to being in person.
Mhm.
We went like 2 or 3 years without it, which is kind of hurts.
Yeah.
When you don't have those festivals you're used to.
Yeah.
But St. Augustine also hosts a huge Celtic festival every year. They do a Greek food festival.
Ooh.
No, it's delicious. There's a big fairground right next to the parking garage. And so there's always something going on.
They do a lot of reenactments of various
There's
sieges.
every day at the fort,
yeah.
there's daily reenactments with cannons and everything.
Mhm.
You can be walking down the main pedestrian street is called St. George Street. And you can be walking down St. George Street and you just see people in period clothing just on their cell phones walking down the street. Talk about anachronism. Like it is completely, it just kind of makes you double take for a second.
That's wonderful.
But it's super common. There's some jobs where you have to dress up in period costume.
I'm all about
and
it.
it's just a normal thing. We have a pirate ship
Yeah,
called the
yeah,
Black
yeah,
Raven.
mhm.
One of the girls who used to work for Go City works for the Black
Oh,
Raven.
okay.
And they do cruises.
Mhm.
They take you out on the water, and you get entertainment, and everyone's dressed like a pirate.
It's the Ponce
Pretty
de Leon park with the Fountain of Youth in it. That's a bit north of St. Augustine. It's in
it's
St.
within-
Augustine.
Yeah, it's within walking distance. It's not too far.
Mhm.
That one's. I always tell people if you've never been, you have to go at least once. It's a beautiful piece of land. It really is. It's absolutely gorgeous. And they have like party venues on there as well.
Mhm.
You can rent out a hall and a patio and stuff like that. But it's gorgeous.
So what is the Fountain of
and they-
Youth? Obviously, is it a spring, a natural spring?
It's
Water fountain?
Ponce de Leon.
Leon,
Yeah,
mhm.
thought. Well, he didn't think it's a legend that he was looking for the Fountain of Youth, and he thought it was in St. Augustine.
I need that bottled up and sent to me. Does it work? You drink it? Is it just
You're allowed to drink it.
okay?
It's just sulfur water.
Okay.
But everyone's got to do it once.
Yeah. Hey, I'm all about try everything once, twice if you like it. But yeah, I lived in Europe for 4 years and over in Sicily, and we went to some islands and they had sulfur baths. And I would just watch people because I'm thinking, you're going to dunk and put that mud all over you that smells like crap. But they're like, it's good for skin. No, I'm good with that one because it just sticks in your toes and it crevices. I'm like, no. But yeah, it's definitely.
You'll drink sulfur water?
I'll try it if it makes me
Okay.
look good.
I say I won't deny or
Confirmed.
say yes, that one.
So what tour do you normally do with Ghost City? Do you have a specific one that you're on? So if somebody's interested in wanting to book a tour with you?
I do a tour called Telling Elegies.
Mhm.
It's an adults only, so 16 up, because most of our stories are a little more adult oriented.
Oh,
We
I wrote
talk
that one.
What?
I wrote that one.
Oh yeah, that's the one I tell. So it talks more about affairs
Mhm.
and infidelity and bishops exploding and things like that. Now we do have 2 other tours. We have the Ghost of St. Augustine, which is an all ages tour, and then we have our haunted pub crawl,
Right.
which obviously to be 21.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
We are starting 2 new tours as well with
Yes.
revelry tours.
Yep.
We have the Blood and Cobblestones, which is a true crime tour, which I'll be switching to.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then we also have Pirates and
Privateers.
Privateers.
Pirates and Privateers. I was like,
Yes.
what is that other word?
Yes.
Pirates and Privateers,
I also
which is about
I also wrote that
Yeah,
one.
came
The
up with
There
private.
you go.
stops and the
That one was fun.
things.
about life
Yeah.
on the high seas
Yep.
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
swashbuckling and stuff. So those go live March 4th. And those are story and cocktail tours.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're 2 hours long, and we
Mhm.
stop at bars along the way, and you get to imbibe in both kinds of spirits.
Mhm. So the community with the recession, do you notice a travel recession and people not coming out as much?
Yes, definitely. I think we're starting to bounce back a little bit.
Mhm.
Oh, good.
But now we're not as busy right now as we thought we'd be, because with the price of gas,
Mhm.
what it is, and the price of eggs being your right arm,
Mhm.
um, it is a little bit slower as well. But I think if people want to get out there,
Mhm.
they still are. They're finding a way.
Mhm.
St. Augustine's great for an overnight trip or a day trip if you
Mhm.
live in Florida.
Right.
I mean, our state's small enough. You can easily get from one side of the coast to the other in a couple hours.
Mhm.
Pick a bed and breakfast overnight
Mhm.
and then go home. So it's a great place.
For
For
staycation
a
kind of thing or
weekend.
quick. Yeah. a
It's
getaway.
also a popular place for like bachelorette parties, and
Okay.
it's a beautiful city to get married in. So we have wedding parties all the time as well.
Well, we want to thank you for being on, and we will definitely let everybody know if they're interested in booking a tour with you with St. Augustine to let us know or call the agents, and they will help book that tour so you could have Heather as your own guide and get that one-on-one tour and speak with her afterwards and
Mhm.
get some input. But yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for all that you do and continue doing greatness. And if there's anything we could do, let us know. You know
All
who the
right.
writer is, so if there's questions or,
Yeah.
or
You
you
can
want
come
some
complain to
some
me.
stops suggested, let us know. But yeah,
The stories and the jokes change every time.
yeah.
I'm currently our trainer for telling elegies as
Okay.
well. And she's like, "Do I have to do this word for word?" I'm like, "You're
No.
gonna find jokes. You're
Yeah.
good. You're good."
Yeah. And now the new ones, it's just a bullet point. So it's like we give you facts, you do the rest,
Yeah.
and make it yourself, make it personable.
Yeah, I just got
And-
the Blood and Cobblestones script earlier,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
time to start working on that one.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
on.
you.
We are going to do some submissions, and we're going to talk about those photos that you sent in and shared with me that I can't wait to share with other people. And I think that would be a great way for people, if you're interested in seeing more or hearing about these photos that Heather got, you need to come see her on a tour for sure. So,
Absolutely.
yes.
We'll add more photos to the collection.
There
Yes,
you
please.
go. There you go. But thank you so much for being our guest. And if you need anything, let us know and keep doing what you do because you're doing a great job.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a good one.
Bye, Heather.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
In the oldest city in the New World, adventure awaits. Tales of betrayal, lovers from beyond the grave, and a quest for the fountain of youth. Follow the light, join the crew of lost souls, and discover buried secrets with the ghosts of St. Augustine.
Book your tickets now at GhostCityTours.com.
Are we ready to look at some ghost pictures, Misty?
We are. So these are submitted from guests or just people that see us on social media and follow us. Some of them are from employees of ours. And so I'm excited because I love looking at this stuff.
I should be like invested in looking at stuff like this, but I don't know why I don't.
Well, they all come to me.
Oh, that makes sense.
But then people like, I had an employee that reached out to me, our guest that we had, who's actually a tour guide of ours, Heather Cribbs from St. Augustine, Florida. And so she submitted some pictures to us. And this is from the old jail.
Oh, jail?
What's a little bit of background on that old jail?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know much about.
No, she did say that she had a weird, like overwhelming, like dark vibe when she went to that. And a lot of people, like she said, she won't go back into it because it just gave her bad heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, the old jail is like one of the few St. Augustine places I don't know much about. So I was surprised when, I guess every city has an old jail that's haunted. I know about the Charleston one, but I don't know anything about the St. Augustine one.
Okay. So we're going to look through these pictures, see what we think, whether fact or crap kind of thing. I look hard into things, and because I'm a true believer. Sometimes I just don't see shit, and it's just I don't see shit. But I'm excited because let's see what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So that's a face.
Yeah.
I
I guess these little window crevices are
the
outside,
windows of the old jail?
The old jail.
Uh-huh.
And she said that if you start feeling different, like she encourages people, take pictures, and then going back through them, she noticed these images in them. And by all means, that's
a clear brow, nose, mouth. It looks like he
Mm-hmm.
has a beard.
So I don't see a beard, but I do see like that big old forehead. So he was bald.
I don't see the big. I'm thinking.
See, it's rounded.
Oh, okay. But I see he has a big nose. That's why I think it's a beard, because I think the bald and beard look works.
Gotcha.
And it almost looks like it goes out, almost like a beard that way.
But he's like, it looks like he's peeking through, like seeing who's looking at or up into those windows. And that was one of the things that they talked about. I think it was night walkers. Is it night walkers or something? The shadow walkers that like they could peek around a corner or peek from a different thing, but you're only seeing like one dimension or like there's not a full figure. So I'm wondering if like he's just peeking around the corner and wonder why everybody's looking up there, nosy people.
He's probably wanting help. Please escape. Help me.
He does have like an older face. So I think that image is creepy as hell. So, and then there's this one. I don't really see anything in there that gives me
I can see eyes right here.
I could see that as
Sunken
like
eyes?
but it looks like they're doing this like the statue feature with a hand maybe under chin, but I don't know.
I don't know about this, but I can see a nose. It looks like a Hulk Hogan mustache right there.
I see that. Yeah. Like the Running Rebel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not a believer on that one. I've seen much. Like it's not prominent to
It
me.
looks like a face to me. His ears right there.
No, I disagree.
No?
Oh, no, I'm not going to let you persuade me. No, I'm standing firm to my beliefs.
But that one's fine.
Yes. That one reminds me of the old guy from Underworld. Remember did you ever watch Underworld?
Yeah, I love
and so
Underworld.
like he starts coming back because he had that taste of blood and he comes up and he looks
does
like that
look
old
like,
creepy guy.
Bill
Yes.
Nye.
Yeah. Hello, creepo. Yeah. No. I
I
don't know.
see something, but it doesn't look like. It kind of looks like a little. It's like half a face. The nose is right there.
That looks like a Yoda.
And
No.
the eyes. It looks like he has a little hood. Maybe it is Yoda.
There ain't shit in that picture.
You can't see like the nose right there. The big nose.
No.
No.
That little green thing with the round ear?
Yeah. I don't
Is it-
see an ear. I just see part of it looks like it's covered up with like a shawl. It's covered up, and the eyes are there.
First, you want to give him hair and a mustache and a beard. Now you're giving him clothing.
This is like a different person.
Yeah, I know, but now you're dressing him in a shawl. I don't see shit.
You don't
Maybe. I don't think so. No, I'm
not-
staying
no
no.
nose.
I kind of do, but I have to say I don't really see enough to make me think yes.
Well, there's that thing where the brain always tries to find faces and everything. So maybe that's
Yeah,
just
and you're
me.
like that $100 word like guy that figures everything out. So I think you could point out something like that. For me, it takes me a long time, and I can't even figure out license plates. So let's be real.
Next one.
Hold on, I gotta look.
You have to take your eyes off.
Yeah, I got to see if I could see better without my eyes. It looks just like, oh, okay, no,
This one, I
no.
don't.
So go down a little bit. No, like put your cursor
Oh,
in the down, a little more there. So it looks like maybe something in that area, but not enough for
I
me
just
to
see
be like,
this thing. It looks like an alien. Yeah, I can see. It
Or a
looks like a
spider web.
skull, eyes, and a hollow nose. But that just could be my.
You trying to figure out something?
Yeah, I can't. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I don't know about that one either. I don't know.
You need more of a face, sir.
Yeah. Make yourself more clear, please.
Looks like smoke's coming out of his eyes.
Well, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Last
So we're
one.
both on no on
Yeah.
that one. Okay.
That's an eye.
Yeah.
That is an evil eye.
Yeah. Do you see the nose and the mouth?
I see the nose. I guess that's a mouth.
That's the mouth. Like
Okay.
that's the lip and then going down. And its eyes are like curved up. Like that's what scared the shit out of me.
That is a demon.
Okay, but we just did the podcast with Heather.
Uh-huh.
And who'd she say was majority people that were at the jail or the first people there were like Spanish descendants, right?
Oh, okay.
So the features on that image, I could see that. Like, that would creep me the hell out.
Is that what a 15th century Spaniard looked like?
Yeah. Like but like just the features, like different nationalities have different features. The eyes on that one, wow. Tell me if you were looking through your pictures and ran across that.
I would burn the picture. That is a demon.
And it's got black hair. It
I don't
looks
see
like
the hair. I just see
the eyes and the nose, and
it's
you
just
didn't see the
eye.
nose. Oh, they're just
I see the
eye.
nose, but the eye is the thing that's piercing into my soul.
Piercing into your soul.
'Cause
It's creepy.
It's a no bueno eye.
Yeah, that is a no bueno eye. Like, yeah, that's scary as shit.
Yeah.
We're going to ask the guys in the room with us what they think.
Okay.
Just because we're believers and maybe they're not believers.
They'll say anything to discredit us.
Are you, James?
No.
James says no. You don't see anything, James?
He sees, he just doesn't believe.
You're a non-believer?
Believing is seeing, James.
It's like looking at clouds.
Oh, Jesus.
I see bunnies and clouds all the time.
Yes. Winnie the Pooh. Zach, do you see something? A tree?
You're just...
Huh? Do you see the face at all, though, that we're seeing?
We're not doing ink blots here.
You see a tree.
That's fine. Whatever.
Oh. It's a...
It's a bunny. It's a bunny rabbit.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I would say that picture, when I saw it at first, I was, oh my gosh.
That is a
and
face.
so, by all means, a face. In my professional opinion, which really isn't much, but it's, I think it's great. So I'm interested to know if any other people watching this or hearing about this has similar photos or have an
seen that same
experience.
face.
Yeah, or have like just an experience that's similar where they may have seen that somewhere else, or that looking at this one picture might hit home and be like, holy shit, yeah. And then cause people to like go back from stuff. And yeah, I think that would stick with me for a long time if I took that picture. These were submitted by Heather Cribbs, and go on a tour. And she said she has more pictures. But as far as them, I think there's a few that are true, factual, not crap. There's a few I couldn't tell what the hell it was. What do you think?
Ghosts are just like that sometimes. Ghosts can look weird.
Yeah, and they're not looking straight on. Like everyone that we see, though, it's like a side profile, like them peering at you, like.
That's probably because the window's so small, they have to...
Yeah, like just breathe out that one little crack.
Yep.
What do you think about these pictures, though?
They're cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something in the other ones. I just can't tell what they are.
Yeah, I can't tell what they are either, but that's okay. I don't have to see something in everything to be a believer. Those two were enough for me to be like, now I want to go to the jail.
That one, I don't know. That one I can't see much. I just see Mr. Hoodman. I still see a face in that one.
I see it, but not enough for me to be like, yes. Not my professional opinion.
And there's
that
our,
one, yes. That's our
hero.
Underworld. Yeah.
It's Grandpa.
That's creepy. Yes. Yes. So you do see the old man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So definitely book a tour, talk with Heather, or send us pictures if you have something else, because we love to go through pictures and videos and discuss them and see what we think. These are very intriguing. And to each their own, whether you're a believer or not, maybe we'll make a believer out of everybody.
We can still have fun.
We could still have fun, and I think this is great. So I love looking at submissions. But yes. Well, thank you for going through those with me.
It was my pleasure.
You non-believers. Ugh.
Hometown Hauntings is brought to you by Ghost City Tours, offering tours in over a dozen of the most haunted cities across the United States. Book now at GhostCityTours.com and use promo code HHSaintAug10 for 10% off. That's HHSTAUG 10.